Okay, yes, this is recording, I hope. You'd think, after doing, I think it's 70-something episodes of the podcast, I would have figured this out by now, but no, not yet, folks. Look forward to me fucking this up yet again. So, yeah, here, let's get into it. Hello there. Yep, that's what I was supposed to say. Hello there. Hey, you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and you know what? Yeah, I'm on my lonesome today. Yep, it's feeling very quiet here in that chapter offices here. It's very, very quiet. I don't like it. It's cold. Ooh, burr, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, Keith abandoned me. Well, you know what? Let me rephrase that, folks, because you know what? He abandoned you too. He truly did. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what he did. He abandoned us all. What a guy, to do this to us, huh? I'm shaking with rage right now. He just had to go on summer vacation with his family, if you can believe that. What an asshole for 2 whole weeks. Frankly, folks, I can't even speak. I'm shocked. He's a betrayer. What else would you call this? Other than just straight up treason for what he did to us. So I guess I'll have to riff by myself for this one, actually. How are you? How are you, listener? How are you doing? We can shoot the shit. You know you shoot the shit. We can make jokes and stuff. Okay, good doc. Let's get into this whole episode of the That Chapter story. Story of stories, funnily enough. This is a case that people were asking me to cover for literal years. This involved a frat boy, a weird-ass relationship, and New York City, if you can believe that. The big kahuna burger or something like that. See, in New York, a couple of boys were on a night on the town, party central. However, things would get real nasty real quick in an apartment in Midtown Manhattan. What really happened, only the people who were there know. There were and are a lot of secrets and lies that led to murder. Let's give it one of them damn goos. Man, this is so weird, by the way, doing a podcast by myself. I don't like it. So, today we're telling a story set in New York, and our central character is a guy named Joey Comunale. Joey Comunale was born on March 9th, 1990 to Patsy and Lisa Comunale in Stamford, Connecticut. He had one sibling, a younger sister by the name of Alexa, and Joey was always described as a kind kid. His relationship with his family, tight-knit, and with his dad, even more so. They were the two best friends that anyone could have. Joey graduated from West Hill High School in 2008 in Stamford before heading off to Hofstra University in Long Island, New York, just over an hour's drive away from his family home in Stamford. He graduated from that university in 2012 with a degree in legal studies. I'm talking business. He was, numbers and other business things. After graduation, he moved back to the family home briefly before securing a sales job at Triad Security, where his father, Patsy, worked as president of Global Security Solutions. Look at you. Joey worked at a different office, however, in Elmsford, New York. He moved away from the family home again to a condominium that was owned. Man, his family got him a job. His family got him a condo. Hey, listen, what's not to like? It was a townhome called Chesterfield Condominiums. And Joey had an on and off again girlfriend with whom he had started dating during his time at Hofstra University. Her name was Eliza. Joey now, he was a real guy's guy, so to speak. I want to say jock. And I know that's not a derogatory term per se, but kind of stick with me. See, he played hockey, baseball, he was part of the fraternity at university, and if you look at pictures of the guy, he was pretty jacked. But jock can also sort of mean, kind of like a dickhead, like a bit of an asshole. But Joey, not him. Now, he didn't have a mean bone in his damn body. In fact, many of his frat brothers would say he wasn't the guy who would get in your face, like ever. He wasn't about confrontation or altercation. He really just, didn't like to disagree. He just wanted to leave well enough alone. He was a very agreeable fellow who just kind of got on with everybody else. So our tale today takes place in an affluent neighborhood in New York City, Manhattan specifically, more specifically the Upper East Side. The originally high-class residence. Upper East Side, is that Succession? I think so. Or is that the Upper West Side? I never know. But, people who lived here, Kennedys, Roosevelts, Rockefellers, well, maybe not so much anymore, but back in the day, that's what I'm talking about. Big-name neighborhoods you've probably only seen in movies or celebrity magazines. Lenox Hill, Carnegie Hill, Yorkville. They sound expensive, just from the names alone. And it's full of celebrities, of course, as you can imagine, like Mariah Carey, Bill Murray, Gwyneth Paltrow, just to name a few people who live there. And if they live there, yikes, I kind of just dipped in my estimation. So being part of, Manhattan, there's no shortage of anything nearby, really. Central Park, it's right there. Every kind of museum, coffee shop, stores, high-end restaurants, whatever you need. Plus a buttload of people. I mean, well, you got 8 million right there. So that takes us to November 12th, 2016, and life for Joey was hella good. He had the nice condo, the family-owned place. He had a decent job. What's not to like? It was on Saturday night, November 12th, 2016, that Joey and his longtime on-again, off-again girlfriend Eliza, they had a falling out, and they decided to take yet another break. They had a history of breaking up and getting back together, but no one could have foreseen that this would be the end of that cycle forever. Like most typical young men after a breakout, listen, it's out with the lads, come on! Get some drinks, turn up the swagger, make sure you still got the moves, you know what I'm saying? That's exactly what Joey did. He took the subway to Chelsea in New York and he met up with some friends at a club called the Gilded Lily. Now that place, the Gilded Lily, it's closed today. I can just see it's closed. I'm not sure when, if it was a victim of COVID or whatever, but kind of looking into the reviews. It seems like it sucked asses. Just really sucked ass. It's, the bouncers were assholes. Only the cool kids were allowed in, which, come on. Of course, I would be allowed in, guys. What are you talking about? I'm glad it's closed. It looks like it sucks. So him and his boys were having a fantastic time at this place. I mean, they must have been, they were pretty well off. It seems like you have to be very well off to have a good time at this place. And they ended up staying in the Gilded Lily till closing time. CCTV showed Joey and his friends spilling out onto the street and then lingering outside out front and chatting to other people. Everybody's had a glass of sherry or two and is pretty wasted, but they're all having a good time. No one, at this stage is ready for the night to end. Joey was seen chatting with three young ladies with his friend that Joey had gone out drinking with. His friend was named Stephen Nasso. So Joey and Stephen talking to these three young ladies, and then guess what happens? These two other men, completely unknown to Joey and Stephen, join in on the conversation. It was close to 4 a.m., but as I said, no one was ready for the night to be over. The new men that stepped into the conversation then just happened to mention to the gang, hey, let's take the party over to my friend's penthouse. We can keep it going over there. Now, expensive penthouse, that is with a big ol' E and a big ol', much like myself, P. The guy who lived there, his dad, apparent micro celebrity, a jeweler to some of the biggest names in showbiz. He had like a showroom on Fifth Avenue. If you needed, if a celebrity or somebody very important, quote unquote important, was getting a diamond engagement ring, they would get it from him. And so, they were chatting away, making plans for some after drinks, going over to this guy's apartment, continuing the party. And then Joey's friend Stephen, he asked to borrow Joey's phone just for a moment, just needed to make a very, very quick call. Stephen got the phone off Joey, turned away for just, I'm talking a handful of minutes to make a quick call at 4 a.m. But when he turned back to the group to return Joey's phone, they were gone. He was standing there. Thanks, assholes. Fucking hell. Joey, the other two new guys, and the girls were all gonzo. Someone who's nearby just mentioned him that Joey, they all just jumped into a cab with this group to attend this after party at a swanky penthouse in the Upper East Side, and off they were. Never to be seen again. She didn't even let him know. And Joey didn't even take his phone. So Stephen, F this S, thanks lads, he heads home by himself. Joey's phone in his pocket with, here listen, he'll just return it to his friend tomorrow morning. Sundays were fantasy football day for Pat Comunale and his son Joey. Joey never missed it. Mad for the fantasy football. Getting those, points. You gotta get those points. Make sure you get that running back in the first round. It was tradition, and even then, Joey would always communicate and be in touch with his dad for a day of football. That Sunday, it's getting to midday, football's about to start, Joey didn't show up. No phone call, no text, no nothing. And so his dad, Pat, was like, okay, weird, kind of unlike my dear son. He wasn't the kind of kid to just flake without a call or letting you know what was up, so weird. And then that kind of pit feeling in your stomach where you can just feel something heavy there. That's what Pat had when he picked up the phone to call his son. See, the voice on the other end wasn't his son. It was his son's friend, Stephen. Stephen then told Pat that Joey had stayed in the city. Stephen had borrowed his phone and Joey had taken off before he could return it. And Stephen, he hadn't heard from Joey since. Pat knew instantly something was up and told Stephen, quote, "Well, something is wrong then." All feet were on the ground at that moment looking for Joey, like almost weirdly alert from the very get-go. It was almost bizarre how quick Pat was like, shit's getting pretty real and shit's not going good. Pat, he headed over to Joey's condo, and as the family owned Joey's condo, he had a key, he let himself in. It was empty. Joey had never come home that night. See, one of Joey's friends, another guy who had been alerted to Joey being missing, Max was his name, they're all like kind of freaking out and worried about Joey and how can they even attempt to start looking for him. Well, Max had a really, really good one. They were all completely baffled. They didn't even know where to begin to look for Joey. And hey, if you haven't noticed, New York is a big old place. So where the hell had he gone? I mean, someone mentioned something to Stephen, but sure, he was 3 sheets to the wind, and basically all he got was they'd gone to a penthouse in the Upper East Side. So, Max's novel idea, let's check social media. Let's look at Instagram, right? You know, let's do a location tag and scour photos from the Gilded Lily the night before. And the Gilded Lily, it seems like the kind of place where if you go there, you're going to take pictures on Instagram and you're going to tag it on Instagram. You want people to know you went to the Gilded Lily. And success. That is when they find photos of the 2 men that had invited Joey to the after party. And so, through this like kind of weird game, you know, 6 degrees of separation style game via Instagram tags and who followed who, they were eventually able to track down one of the guys' name and his phone number. Enter in Larry DeLeon. By the way, I don't know if I'm probably butchering that, but this is one of those cases where these people kind of suck, so I do not care. Larry, 28 years old at the time, and he came from Moolah. His family bred thoroughbred horses, and he himself worked in real estate, which kind of probably just means like money laundering for the rich and famous. You'll see a trend here is that they all had a lot of status, wealth, and there's a lot of name dropping in this circle of friends. Now, Larry, bit of a hothead, if you know what I mean. He was allegedly on the roids, and according to some had a very short fuse. And hey, I mean, on the roids, he also had a very short penis. He had a few misdemeanors from bar fights already and disorderly conduct. So, Joey's friend Max tracks down Larry's phone number and gives it to Pat, right? This is who one of the guys Joey was last seen in. Let's see what he knows and what he can tell us. And so Pat gives him a ring immediately. And wouldn't you know it, Larry answers and said, "Oh, who? Joey who? Don't know where he went. Jeez, I haven't seen him at all. In fact, maybe he was here partying last night, but, you know, in the early morning hours after the party at the penthouse had winded down, Joey and Larry did walk the 3 ladies, you know, that had gone back to party with them, out to a waiting Uber. And then Larry said that Joey said something about going to get cigarettes and didn't come back to the apartment with Larry. Last he's seen out on the street, that was it. So while Pat was calling and dialing up every friend he knows of Joey's, Max, very good social media use, frankly, like genuinely, tracked down another person in his Instagram detective work. And Max found one of the girls that Joey had been chatting to that night that had gone back to the party with Joey. Stephen, then, who was there with Joey that night, confirmed it. He said, yeah, I saw her outside the Gilded Lily. So they then got a hold of her, and she said, yep, herself, Joey, these 2 other guys, we went to party at a penthouse. Then the girls, they were leaving. Joey and Larry, they walked them from the penthouse down to the street to an Uber. And then she said that as she was waving goodbye from the moving car, it looked to her like Joey was going back into the building with Larry. When remember, Larry was saying Joey, they walked the girls out and then Joey left by himself. Something about going to get cigarettes or something. Well, someone's lying like a rug over here. So to Pat, this made more sense that Joey would have gone back inside. Basically, for the simple reason that Joey never bought a pack of smokes in his life. Like Larry was saying Joey left to get cigarettes. No, he wouldn't. He doesn't smoke. Okay, he doesn't smoke. Sure, he bums the odd cigarette from time to time, when he's drunk at a party or something like that. Drunk smoking, social smoking, whatever you want to call it. But he'd never, taken up smoking to the point of buying cigarettes himself. He would just bum them off other people. Pat knew he wouldn't do that. That ain't his Joe. Joey's dad, at this point, done fucking around. He then decided to file a missing persons report. Someone's lying and you gotta get the police in at this point. The police called Larry DeLeon as well, and Larry stood by his story. He had no clue where Joey was. He was like, he was going to a nearby bodega or something to go get smokes, and that was it. That was the last he's seen of him. But Larry does willingly give the police the name and number of 2 other men that were there that night as well. He also confirms the address of where this after party took place. So, Larry gives them 2 names, 2 of the other guys who were there that night. One is, in fact, Larry's own roommate, Max Gemma. Another story here of wealth and privilege. Max, a software engineer. His mom, a previous mayor of their hometown in New Jersey. Again, hung out with the likes of the rich and famous, or more specifically, spoiled nepo babies of the rich and famous. I mean, you can kind of see everybody here is this rich frat bro type. Yacht shoes, lacrosse, Rohypnol. So Max was the other guy who was there at the Gilded Lily that night. It was Larry, Max, Joey, and 3 girls got a cab to another friend's house. The other guy that was there was James Rackover. He was the host of this party, this after party, and resident of apartment 4C at the Grand Sutton Apartments. I mean, to look at pictures of the Grand Sutton Apartments, it looks pretty nice. I'm not gonna lie. I'm looking at pictures of them here right now. It's on the Upper East Side, kind of like, not quite the Upper East Side, really. I mean, it's like halfway between Midtown and the Upper East Side. It's right off the, one of them bridges. I don't know. New York's got like a million of them. The Queensboro Bridge. There you go. But, it's like definitely one of those. Whoa, boy. Man. Listen, I don't think I can even afford to walk in the front door. By the way, James Rackover's, the after party, it wasn't actually in a penthouse at all. From reports, it was just a 1-bedroom apartment that had a street view, so that means an extra cha-ching. Although that didn't seem to matter, as all the witnesses who went to that after party say that, well, regardless, they had a smashing good time. They drank, they did some of the devil's dandruff, if you can believe that. There was even a striptease competition. I'm shocked at this. But anyway, let's get back to, let's stick with James Rackover for a moment, the guy who lived in that apartment. So James Rackover was the son of Jeffrey Rackover. As I said previously, Jeffrey Rackover, celebrity jeweler. He actually lived in the same building, but just on a much better apartment and a higher floor. So James was an inspiring model, and he worked in insurance at the time. On the night in question, he had attended a Friendsgiving and had been home by 9:30 p.m. A woman he'd been seeing then came over for a little late night delight and had fallen asleep. James then got up and watched a UFC fight, and that's when he received a text message from Larry about coming over for a party. See, Larry just texted him as they were leaving the Gilded Lily saying, mind if we come over? James said, hell yeah. He kicked this girl out and he said, come on over. This is like, by the way, already in the wee hours. It's probably like 4 o'clock in the morning already. But he was still like, come over. Let's have a little bit of party time. When questioned by the police, James also confirmed that he did host the party. Joey did attend, but just like Larry, not sure where he is now. He left, something about cigs, never saw him again. Now remember, Joey had no prior relationship with these 3 men. Joey had never met this other Max guy, this Larry guy, or this James guy. Literally just some random guys he met when he was drunk. So that left an uneasy feeling for Joey's dad, Pat, because he knew his son and he knew his son well, and he wouldn't have liked his son hanging out with these people. So then the investigator, the detective, and Pat went for a drive to the Grand Sutton Apartments. And there they decided, hey, listen, let's just go straight to the source. They decided to check in directly with security and ask to see footage, to see CCTV security footage from the night before. When they got to the early morning, they did indeed see Larry and Joey escorting the 3 women to their Uber out front. But then they also saw both men walk back inside the building. The women were telling the truth. The lads, not so much. Something must have happened. So Larry was lying. But why? So understandably so, Pat did a run up to apartment 4C and confront whoever he could find in there, demanding to know where Joey was. Now, it took some talking, but eventually the lead investigator convinced Pat, head back to the precinct, wait for developments there, let the police take over. So Pat agreed and was just kind of standing outside the building, just like, as you can imagine, incredibly anxious, frustrated, and scared for his son. And as he was standing outside the building on his phone, he was kind of just hoping maybe that he might get a call from his son. That's when he noticed the building porters taking out bags of garbage out the side of the Grand Sutton Apartments. This immediately clicked with Pat, who ran back inside and told the investigator he can't let the city collect the garbage. They need to search it. And I mean, hey, listen, I've seen enough, and you probably have too, of these true crime stories to tend to agree. Joey did not just vanish. And if they're saying they don't know where he was, well, not good. They're probably hiding something. They're probably hiding it in the trash. And it was a good thing they did search the trash, because what they found sealed the deal and changed everything. This was not a missing persons case anymore. This was more than likely a homicide investigation. By the way, I just got to give a huge shout out to Joey's dad, Pat, and Joey's friend, Max. It was basically because of them that they were able to make progress on this case. His friend Max was able to find via Instagram with the idea to check Instagram to see if he could find out who Joey had gone with. And then Pat was the one who had the bright idea to check the garbage bags. If left to the police, they probably would have been long gone. Because inside those trash bags, they found Joey's bloody clothes, his driver's license, and a chain necklace he always wore that Pat had given him. And it was covered in blood. Police also tracked James Rackover, taking his father's, Jeffrey's, Mercedes-Benz for a drive that same early morning. Joey wasn't seen on surveillance again leaving the building, or in the elevator, nowhere. So if he was not in that apartment anymore, he didn't walk out of there. And at this point, it's been a couple of days, and there was still no sign of Joey Comunale. Now Larry, he must have been feeling the pressure by this point. The cops were constantly checking in on him, or maybe it's just straight up guilt. Who knows these things? I'd like to say he had a guilty conscience and knew what was the right thing to do, but hey, I don't want to give him that much credit. 2 days after Joey's disappearance, Larry decided he was ready to talk. He came into the police station, he was looking nervous, sweaty, like he hadn't slept, and it was obvious he had something big to say. Eventually, he got it out. The whole thing. What happened to Joey and the events that night that led to where they are now. Larry then, let's say it this way. Larry takes them through the events of the night. You know, having a good time. Ooh, doing a little bit of dancing at the Gilded Lily. Having a few scoops there. You know, meeting Joey outside the bar after they've been all kicked out and it's closed down. And then, hey, having the inspired, ding bright spark idea of moving the party to James's apartment. He texts James, hey bro, you up? You want a party? James says, hell yeah. They head off. The girls, the cocaine, the schnackta, all of it. He said it was pretty kosher and lighthearted. They were having a good ass time in James's apartment. They were dancing, they were bopping, they were strip-teasing, they were doing drugs, they were listening to music. There was no bad blood, no fight or anything for those hours the girls were there. Maybe it was the drugs mixed with the booze and the roids Larry was on. But once they got back to the apartment, after walking the girls to the Uber, Larry would say Joey's demeanor changed once they got back inside. He said Joey got in his face, all up in his grill, and said something to the effect of, quote, I brought the cigarettes, James brought the coke, what did you bring? Like that Joey was implying maybe Larry was a leech and using the guys for a good time, which sounds kind of weird. That's when Larry said he went into Hulk mode. Well, okay, maybe not really Hulk mode, but he did say he got triggered. And according to Larry, he didn't even hesitate in taking Joey down, pounding him to the floor like a move out of a UFC fight. Once Joey was down, Larry, he just kept going, punching him over and over. Larry said, then James joined in. He was also hitting Joey, and Larry told detectives that Joey, it was grim. He was gurgling, he was struggling to defend himself, and was unable to. It was not in a good way. And the whole time this was going on, their other friend, Max Gemma, he was sleeping on the couch. Max then wakes up to all this fuckery, and obviously he's like, what the shit are you doing? James and Larry just told Max, leave. Don't get involved. Be on your merry way. Larry and Max, they were roommates. So anyway, Max does just that. He leaves them. He leaves James and Larry as they were beating Joey to death. Didn't call 911 once he was out of the apartment. Didn't talk to the security at the front desk at the grandstand. And doesn't flag down help on the street. Nope, just strolls out. Didn't see anything. Tries to immediately wash it from his brain. So back inside the apartment, James, it said, he was the one who escalated the beating to murder. He took out a pocket knife that they had been doing coke off of all night, and he stabbed Joey, stabbing him 15 times. I can't, find any real information as to what Larry was doing while James was stabbing Joey to death, just kind of watching. Don't think he tried to really stop him. Did he go to the bathroom, do more drugs? Because apparently they were doing all the drugs. Then, after the stabbing, James dragged Joey to the bathroom, where he tried to dismember him with a serrated knife. I don't know how he expected that to go. I'm guessing it didn't work. So Larry and James then pivoted to a cleanup. Using bleach and paper towels, they started the massive operation to clean up the murder of Joey. That's when Larry got that very first call after the scouring and the 6 degrees of separation on Instagram. Remember, Joey's friends tracked him down, and then Larry told Pat straight up he had no idea where Joey was. Last he had heard, he had left to go get cigarettes or something at the corner of a nearby bodega. The entire time he was on the phone to Pat, he was standing next to Joey's dead body, cleaning up his blood. And so they finished cleaning up, and Larry fielded constant calls then coming from Joey's family and friends and eventually the cops. Now though, they still needed to get rid of the body. They were seen on surveillance walking around in the basement of the apartments. Larry and James were just seen walking basically everywhere on the ground floor and underneath. Larry would say they were trying to find a way to get the body out of the building without being seen. Essentially, they were scouring every single way, entrance and exit. Do you think we could carry a body out this way without being seen? Could we do it this way? Could we do it this way? And eventually they were like, no. Everywhere there's either a person, it goes directly onto the street where this is New York City, there's going to be a lot of people walking around, or, there's a camera or there's CCTV or something. So they came up with something that was, I would say ingenious, but it's more like, what's the opposite of ingenious? In dumb. In stupid. It's in stupid. That's it. That's what it is. They wait until it started to get dark outside. They'd killed him in the very early hours. They kept him inside the entire day. And then when it started to get dark out again, they wrapped Joey's body up in a comforter. James then got in his dad's Mercedes, drove it around to the street underneath his apartment window. James Rackover's apartment was 4 stories up. When James then gave Larry the go-ahead, Larry lifted and pushed Joey's body out of the window, still wrapped in the comforter, letting it fall 4 stories to the bushes below. This is the middle of Manhattan. And frickin' James Rackover's apartment was a street-facing apartment. So this is on the middle of the street. What the heck? Once there, they quickly managed to transfer it to the car and then speed off. It's absolutely incredible that nobody saw them. Who knows if somebody saw them, but not one witness would come forward later on, and there's no CCTV that caught this. It's kind of unimaginable that somebody didn't see them doing this, but hey, I mean, it's probably New York City, so they probably seen weirder shit that very same day. Who knows? Once they had Joey's body in the car, they went to Ocean Point, New Jersey, which is about 60 miles away. They dumped Joey's body in a wooded area behind a florist's shop. Larry, he was familiar with the area as he had grown up there, and, well, that's the only reason I could find why they picked that spot. They knew it would be secluded. There, they dug a hole, placed Joey's body in it, and before leaving, dumped gasoline on his body and set it on fire. Recounting the night's events and confessing his crime, the police raced to that very area that behind the florist store, and Joey's body was exactly where Larry said they would find it. Larry and James were arrested for second-degree murder. And Max, who had left after the beating before the stabbing, he was also arrested and charged with hindering prosecution and tampering with physical evidence, basically by not coming forward and telling what he had seen. And you know what? You'd think that was it. Justice served. And hell, may these 2 men rot in prison. But there's kind of like this really weird wrinkle to this story. See, James Rackover lived in, this 4th floor apartment in this very fancy building, and it was owned, the apartment was owned by his dad, Jeffrey Rackover, who lived in the same building but on like the 32nd floor. actually, I kind of misspoke there because James was not Jeffrey Rackover's son. See, James Rackover, his real name was actually James Baudouin II, if you can believe that, not the first, the second, born March 1991. And James was actually an ex-felon from Florida with a long list of convictions. He was released from prison in 2013, and after serving 1.5 years for armed burglary, well, from there he decided to relocate to New York City.
New York City.
Where he met the jeweler of the stars himself, Jeffrey Rackover. There's two stories of how they met. Jeffrey would say he met young James at a health club, which sounds like one of them saunas where women aren't allowed. But James would say that they met at a dinner and he was introduced via a friend. Kind of the less seedy introduction, I guess. You probably would want to say that. Anyway, Jeffrey Rackover, as I said, this rich, famous jeweler, he decided to take James under his wing. He even allowed him to live in the apartment he owned in Grand Sutton Apartments. And eventually, James even changed his last name to Rackover. Jeffrey, meeting at these upper-class clubs and societies, began introducing him to others as, oh, look at it, this is my long-lost son, James Rackover. Wouldn't you believe it? They invented this story, Jeffrey and James, that Jeffrey had a fling with James's mom, decades before, and they suddenly had just reconnected. Oh, my son, he came up from Florida. I didn't even know he existed till now, and then yada, yada, yada. Basically, James was adopted by Jeffrey. Now, know what you're thinking? Hey, listen, we're all thinking it. There was definitely some sexual relationship here, for sure. Transactional, if you will. Now, Jeffrey swears up and down that it was just a father-son dynamic, and James swears that too, but I mean, they would say that. It seems Jeffrey kept introducing James to people as his son, so that people wouldn't think they were doing some weird stuff together. Hey, listen, people won't think we're being gay together if I just tell everybody your son, right? But I mean, come on. Let me read you a little quote from this Vanity Fair article. In this gay for pay narrative, accusing Jimmy of exchanging sexual favors with affluent men in return for profit, social status, and illegal substances. It calls James Jimmy there, but that's James Rackover, James Baudouin, or whatever you want to call him. Even his ex-girlfriend from Florida would say, yeah, he was straight, but, him being like gay for pay, being gay for upper class rich men to, get all this free shit, you wouldn't put it past him. I mean, why else would this rich jeweler who was unmarried suddenly adopt, quote unquote, this young, good-looking fella who's willing to do anything for a little bit of cheddar cheese? Hey, I mean, yeah, 20 bucks is 20 bucks. Doesn't matter where you're getting it from, and he was likely getting a hell of a lot more than that, including for free an apartment in New York City. I mean, he was trying to be a model, so he's probably like good-looking, at least to some extent. Now, you might ask, why am I bringing all this up? That's their own private business. Well, that would become a major part of the prosecution's case. By the way, the name change from Baudouin to Rackover, it was never legally binding. They would display forms, it was fake, just like their relationship. But Jeffrey would pay for James's education, his monthly rent, and his monthly rent at that place in Grand Sutton, it was $4,000 a month. So, not cheap. And was he doing all that out of the goodness of his heart? Goodness of his balls, more like. After James's arrest, Jeffrey initially, he did pay for his defense, and he probably would have been able to get him an amazing lawyer, but soon his support wavered, as more and more damning evidence would come to light. When the trial finally started in 2018, Jeffrey was nowhere in sight to support his, quote, son, unquote. It's rumored he cut ties with James around this time. So, when it came to trial, a motive has never really been established as to why Larry and James murdered Joey. Larry said Joey got in his face for no good reason and he suddenly snapped, and then James for some reason brought out a knife. But when all this came out in the press in New York City, well, it said that the two boys, James and Larry, they tried humping Joey Comunale, and well, Joey wasn't into that sort of thing, so they killed him. The prosecution would paint James as Larry as two guys who were gay together, who were lovers, which I think that all stems from James and Jeffrey having a weird relationship, so therefore James must have had one with Larry too. I mean, James Rackover, everybody, it was a name in the papers all the time, so being able to paint this as kind of weird and sort of seedy, it's gonna get a lot of attention. They did show texts at trial where both James and Larry would text "I love you" to each other, which is, But I mean, hey, come on, what's an "I love you" amongst the boys? Later, though, the prosecution would say, nah, they just killed him over some cocaine. That was it. They were running out of Bolivian marching powder, so they started fighting over it, and eventually the two of them killed Joey. James would say he didn't kill Joey, by the way. He wasn't even there for the murder. He may have helped clean up, but Larry was the one who did the killing. Regardless, at the end of the trial, James was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 28 years. And Larry, who pleaded guilty to manslaughter, got 23 years in prison. Max, by the way, the other friend who was there to sleep and do it on the couch, who left after the beating, he pleaded guilty to hindering the prosecution and tampering with evidence and did 6 months in prison for that one. And so ends the story of Joey Comunale, a good-ass dude who came to a horrible end, surrounded by, some real assholes. Thank you so much for listening, folks. Keith will be back next week, or perhaps the week after. So look forward to that, or dread it. Who knows? I'm not going to tell you what to do. Before I go, Keith, if you're listening to this, and I know that you are, get back to work. You know I never would have sanctioned your vacation. I wouldn't allow it, so I demand you return at once, and you can laugh at my jokes on this podcast. No more. I'm not allowing him to go on vacation again, folks. I forbid it. I've decided I forbid it. As always, please check out new videos on the That Chapter YouTube channel every single Tuesday. Every single Tuesday there's a brand new video up there, and there's a new podcast out every single Monday, so give it a go wherever you get your yokes. But here, listen, that kind of, the podcast just sort of ends. Alright, see ya, as Keith says, and thanks. Bye.